Okay, this afternoon I want to talk to you guys about a new way of communicating, how we communicate in 2016 versus the way we communicated, let's say back in the day, 1980s, 60s, and all that good stuff. So what I want to say is we don't speak anymore, but we're talking more than ever. You know what I mean? So we're not speaking anymore, but we're talking more than ever. So, and this topic is on a new way of communicating. Okay, so according to the Chicago Tribune, there was a study conducted. And in that study, it showed that 1 in 4 people socialize more online than in person, than face-to-face conversation. And also as well in that same study, 32% of people would rather communicate via text message than over the phone. So instead of calling you saying, hey, meet me here and there, I'm just going to text you instead. So we got 32% of people who would rather do that than actually sit down and say, hey, what's going on for today? Let's get this done, move out, and keep it moving. So, we got the mass texting going on. So what we need to break down is what is communication. So the definition I have for communication is the act or process of using words, sounds, signs, behaviors to express or exchange information or to express your ideas, your thoughts, and your feelings. So when we communicate, it's basically saying we communicate to express our thoughts, our ideas, our feelings. There are certain sounds, tones, pitches, and everything we use to communicate to get our point across. Which brings you back to a point to where if you're not doing face-to-face communication, sometimes you really can't get that, that idea or that thought or that feeling that you would get versus texting somebody. Plenty of times I got a text message misinterpreted versus it then saying, hey, if I would have been in their face, it probably would have been a little bit different than how I was reading the text message. You know what I mean? So it brings me to 51% of teens would rather communicate digitally, which is Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. 51% of teens will communicate digitally than with their friends in person, which is kind of the new thing. It's a lot easier, to get your point across digitally. So that's not nothing new. Right now, per day, there's 73 billion text messages being sent a day. 73 billion text messages a day. And also, as far as emails go, we have 188 billion emails being sent today. So this brings me to my point of the most frequent forms of nonverbal or non-vocal communication. Biggest thing being emails, 90%. Text messages, we have that next. Facebook messages, tweets, and then other forms of communication, letters, phone calls, smoke signals, whatever the case may be. So 90% of 16 to 24-year-olds exchange text messages with friends and family. Also, at least they do that once a day. Followed by social media at 74%, mobile phone calls at 67%, and at 63% is the face-to-face interaction. So that's being the least of what we're doing right now, that face-to-face communication. Plenty of times I can remember a sergeant texting me right there in the motor pool, hey, get this done, and you're like 2 feet away from it. You could have just told me that face-to-face versus the texting me, you know what I mean? So I find myself doing that as well. But email is the most frequently used form of nonverbal communication, believe it or not. It beats out text messages, it beats out phone calls, emails. So what I want to compare now is communication from then to now. Then it was face-to-face, you write letters, you have your phone calls or whatnot. That was back then. So now we have text messaging, we have emails, and we have video chats. So you can see how they kind of jump significantly from like we was in AIT at one point in basic. We used to get letters. Felt good. We don't do that no more. You know what I'm saying? You just shoot your mom a text message or email. Hey, mom, how you doing? And now I want to address some advantages and disadvantages of having face-to-face conversation versus the new way of communicating. So some advantages with texting. It saves time and it's simple. Also, emails are delivered fast and can be sent to multiple people. So instead of just getting everybody in one room saying, hey, face-to-face, we can do this and do that, and somebody misinterpreted it, I just put it in an email, shoot it to 100 people, and it's done in 5 minutes. Now, the disadvantages of these text messages and the disadvantages of the emails are text messages can be misinterpreted. and you can feel pressured to reply. Just like when a sergeant texts you, whatever they're going to text you at the end, reply time now. They're pressuring you to respond to that message right now versus then if I'm talking to Holly face to face, hey man, and we conversating and all this, he doesn't really feel pressure to reply to me, and if he does, it's not pressure because we're just talking, you know what I mean? Versus saying, hey, you need to reply to me right now like in a text message. As far as emails, the disadvantages to that, they can contain spam, viruses, and have information overload inside of those emails. Another study was conducted, and it showed people to use their cell phones more for non-vocal communication more than they actually use their phone for phone calls. So picture this, you bought your phone to make phone calls. You don't even use it for that. You use it for social media, text messaging, and all that other stuff. How many phone calls a day do you actually take on your phone? Right. Versus, all right, so that's what I'm saying. And then like when it comes to the face-to-face communication, there's no way to duck that, you know what I mean? You can duck that phone call. So in post-view, this is what I have. I have a question for you guys. Knowing that all the advantages and disadvantages of communication, how does your communication habits stack up to the most popular ways of communicating? Are you a face-to-face person? Are you more or less say, I'm just going to get on my phone or my text messages and shoot it to whoever? Right now, in this moment, this little 5 to 6 minute 7 speech, guess how many text messages have been sent? In 5 minutes. 57,900,000 text messages have been sent in 5 minutes. That's a lot of messages. And I'm going to leave you guys with a quote. Albert Einstein, and I quote, I fear that the day that technology will surpass our human interaction, the world will have a generation of idiots. Thank you.
Good job.
Learn something.
Yeah.